Hey guys, I'm the 50s Kid. This is a BMW X3. It's an E83 chassis and it's got some coolant leaks. It's got some really slow kind of coolant leaks, the ones that are particularly hard to find. You know, you get under there, you'll see wetness, but you can't really tell exactly where it's coming from. So I'm going to show you how to find those really hard to find coolant leaks and a cool tool you can use that really helps you out when you're doing that. And we'll go ahead and fix them, and that's going to be it. So let's get started. So I have already diagnosed this car. I needed to know which parts to buy, so I've already done this and I know exactly what the problem is, but I'm just going to show you what I did in order to figure that out. Now, this is what I used: a radiator pressure test kit. This is a really cool tool. Only cost me about 50 bucks. It's probably less than that on Amazon. I'll throw a link in the description. But this thing has come in so handy. Man, I love this thing. This is probably the best value for money tool, like specialty tool, that I've ever purchased. Comes with all the adapters for all your major radiators out there. Somebody asked me, does it have a cap for the newer BMWs? And I honestly don't know the answer to that question, because I don't have a newer BMW on hand and don't remember what that cap looks like on the inside. I know the cap is a little bigger on those, but I don't know if the threads are actually any bigger or smaller or what. So I apologize for that. Basically, this thing has been leaking, slow drip. You know, it's kind of coming from this side, leaking on the ground a little once the vehicle's warmed up, but it's such a slow leak that it's really difficult to find, you know? So what I did was I just kind of took the cap off, started examining things. I noticed that this inner O-ring right here is kind of a little flat. You can see that. So, you know, this one here is not so flat. I think I cobbled together this cap from, from two caps. Like the O-ring was bad on one, it was good on another. I switched it over. It was kind of what I had at the time. I'm going to replace that cap just because it doesn't look that great. Let's see here. This should be the one. This thing, you just kind of hook it up. Has a little quick connect fitting right there. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to pump this up to 15 PSI. Basically where the blue goes to red. You don't want to go into the red, that's too much pressure. So this thing puts the cooling system under pressure, and it'll cause the fluid to squirt out of the holes wherever they are. So you can see it does maintain pressure and it doesn't all bleed off right away. So, you know, that's why it's a slow leak. Like it'll roughly hold pressure, but it does actually leak out. So what you want to do is pump that thing up. Now we're going to go down below and we're going to see where it's leaking out. So you can see the remnants of the leaks that I produced. It was about 2 days ago. So you see one over on this side. You can see there, that one's dripping. That one's the center one. That's the major one. So that's basically underneath the center. So it's coming, you can see, leaking from there. And let's see, let me see if I can show you right where it's coming from. So there you go. There's the crankshaft. Right? Okay, so basically it's coming from right in the center of the engine, right down, dripping off the crank pulley right there. So what's directly above the crank pulley is the water pump and the thermostat housing, okay? Now, as you can see, there's fluid on this side of the car as well, and it's probably not gonna do it right now because I did kind of play with things a little bit the other day, but we'll go up above and I'll show you kind of where it's leaking off of. So it actually was leaking from right underneath this hose right here. You can maybe see it pooling up a little right here, right on here, right on top of the expansion tank. You probably see that pooling up because it's probably doing it. Essentially, where that leak is coming from is the small inlet pipe on the cooling hose. And this is kind of cool. Watch this. We just sort of give this a wiggle. You hear it? Yeah. So basically what's happening there is the O-ring right here is not sealing properly. And so that is leaking, and this hose was brand new, by the way. It came with the car. It was a Rhine brand hose, which is a good brand, you know, like I've used that before. It's been a good brand, but every now and then, man, you get one of these that just was not made right, and one of those O-rings is just not the right size and it leaks. And it's pretty clear to see when you look inside the hose. Like you can see it clear as day. Like, why is that O-ring so small and flat? Like, this is a brand new hose. So that's just kind of what you go through when you do not buy like dealer original parts, which, you know, hey, you don't want to spend $120 on a cooling hose when you can spend $30. So you just have to just be aware of that, and, you know, make sure, like when you install these and you kind of get pressure in them, you know, you can just kind of wiggle them around and make sure that you don't hear air hissing out like that. So that tool, man, is really, really helpful for finding things like this. So yeah, so what we're gonna do is we'll replace this hose. I got a new one of those. And what actually is leaking is the water pump. I can definitely tell you that. I was, before, a couple days ago when I was looking at this, I could clearly see it coming from underneath the water pump, but nothing is actually coming from the thermostat housing. Now, this is my fault. I kind of expected this. I remember now that when I was reassembling things, when we were completing the rebuild, I had forgotten to buy a new O-ring for the water pump that came with this thing. And I put the old one back in with an older O-ring that I had just for like reassembly purposes. I was always planning on getting, you know, another O-ring the next day, and I forgot about it. So I have a new O-ring now, and we'll just go ahead and pull the water pump out, replace the O-ring, put that back in, and we should be good to go. So we need a flathead screwdriver, and we just need to pry up these clips here. So I'm going to take this off first, obviously. I've already had this off, so there's no coolant in it. But if that's a concern for you, just make sure you have that bucket underneath. We just need to get the little one in here. So pull that back. You see that comes off rather easily. And I've got that bucket underneath down there. Okay, so there's our old hose, and the O-ring inside of there is just a little too flat. It's just not super thick like it should be. Now, I suppose you could try replacing that O-ring, but that's not an individual part number as far as I know. So you would just have to probably buy some O-ring kits and see if you can find the right one. Perhaps somebody already knows the right one who's tried that sort of thing. But yeah, I just go ahead and replace the whole thing, because just, you know, I want to find one that has the right O-ring, and just, I don't want any headaches, you know? So this particular radiator, the setup that I have here, has two drain plugs. The radiator has one. And because it's aftermarket, I'm going to take this whole bolt out. So this is what happens, by the way, to this tool as it gets old. The pulleys start to slip. That is one issue I've come to realize with the older Milwaukee, the beloved. So since that is happening, we'll have to go manual, which means I gotta go and let me see if I can try to get this off first without having to get up a billion times. It's one thing about working on the ground is you are always forgetting something, forgetting some tool, and you gotta get back up. And man, that's what takes it out of you. Getting up and down a bunch of times. There it goes. So we used the blue coolant, the more expensive stuff, and it's brand new, so I don't want to just toss it out. I'm gonna re-add it back in once we're done. So we'll just let that drain out, and I will probably see about draining it out of the upper drain plug as well. That one's gonna be like a Phillips. I need like a number 3 Phillips for it. So the little grill is missing from the bumper on this vehicle, so that's kind of nice. We can see a nice little view, and that's where it's draining out right there. All I did was kind of unscrew the plug a little bit, and there's a little drain on the side of it that's kind of sticks out, and it's draining through, and it happens to be falling right in between the subframe, so that fluid isn't really getting dirty or washing dirt off that subframe, which I kind of like. So I'll just wait for it to kind of drain all the way out. This is draining out all the fluid from the hoses that are kind of connected into like the distribution piece. Over here, there's kind of, you know, there's two hoses that connect into this side over here. There's a lower one and there's an upper one. So that's just kind of draining everything out of the lower one, which I believe should in turn drain everything out of the upper one, but I might be wrong about that. I'm actually probably wrong about that. So I think maybe what we'll do as well is we will, oh, something's flashing. That would be the light up there, the Milwaukee light. Got to recharge that. I think what we'll do is we'll go up and from above in the engine cabinet, we'll unhook the upper hose that's going into the side of the expansion tank just to drain that out. That way we'll kind of make sure the block is like fully drained out, you know, and then we'll remove the water pump. So I'm gonna pull out this air cleaner box just to kind of make more room. And you just got a 6 mil on the back of the mass airflow sensor there. 2 10s on the side here. Just kind of play around with this and get it out. Be a little difficult. Unplug the MAF there. That would be helpful. Do one of those. Little wiggle and it's out. Set that aside. So this is the upper hose that I was talking about. So this one comes from it actually comes from the heater core. So we're just gonna reach down, kind of pull that little tab up and wiggle this guy off. See if any fluid is in here. It doesn't feel like there, oh, there is. Yeah, there is. But not a lot. Okay, not a lot. So we'll just do that, let that drain down. Okay, so I feel better about that. We should have basically drained almost everything in here. Gonna take out the radiator fan. Just gotta disconnect the air sensor there. That's the air quality sensor. There's a T25 over on this end. Pull that guy off. And there should be a little kind of, it's like a plastic clip in here. You just use like just use something to grab onto it. I like to use some side cutters because they kind of, you know, they got thin, kind of a thin flat surface. You can just kind of usually get around them. Don't cut them, you know, you just kind of use it as like a prying tool. I like to use those as a prying tool. You can use what you want. I didn't put it back on this because I didn't have it. I had what I had. Next, we need to remove the belts. And on this one, we do not have the hydraulic tensioner. So it's going to be a 16. You just want to grab onto the bolt right here. Just go that way. Get your belt off. Hello. There we go. Get your belt off. Let the tension down on that. So we don't need to take the belt like fully off. We can just kind of leave it where it is. All we're doing is taking this water pump off. Not a big deal. Of course, it's gonna make kind of a mess. Actually, we might want to get it out of the way there. It's already a little messy. We'll have to kind of clean it off. Well, you know what? Here, let's do it this way. I'm just trying to avoid doing more work, you know? So why don't we just pull it aside like that? That way it'll be sort of out of the way. I don't want to take the air conditioning belt off, that's why. So now we can take the pulley off. Actually, I should have loosened these bolts before we undid the belt, so don't be like me. It's been a little while since I've done this. Shouldn't be too much of a problem, though. These things don't need to be ridiculously tight, just tight. Since I've had them on and off before, they will come off without a problem, but of course yours, if you've never had them off, going to be difficult to do. So do this before you pull the belt off. So now we can get at the bolts, which are here, 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 and here. So just kind of around. They're really easy to see. You're going to need a little bit of an extension right here. Get on there. So these ones are nuts. Now, I should probably not be able to pull this off normally, but I think I will be able to actually pull this one off. But what you do when you can't get it off is you just go back to your bolts. You go back to your bolts that you took off with the fan pulley, and you just kind of use those. You thread those in. They gave you 2 threaded holes right here, and you use those holes to actually push this thing off. Let me get you a close-up of what I'm doing. So I've got a new tripod that kind of bends and contorts in different ways, and I'm kind of trying it out here. It's kind of cool. So there you go. That's what I was talking about. You put 2 bolts in the side right here, and you just kind of use those as like a pushing device. So they thread in real nicely. We're gonna turn this to tighten. Let's go this way and get out of your way. See, like that. Like that. You just work it. So all we got to do is kind of break it free a little bit. So now what we want to do is get this underneath, get our drain pan right underneath there, because once we kind of break the seal, probably more coolant's going to leak out. You want to make sure that you can capture it optimally, because you don't want it going on your floor. Not too bad. You know what? My memory is really bad, I believe, because I think I have replaced this O-ring. I think I did. It definitely looks like I did, which means that the pump itself is leaking. This was my older pump, which like only had like 5,000 miles on it and was not leaking when I took it off my car. So that's disappointing. Looks like we're gonna need to grab a new pump, which, you know what? I should have done anyway, so that's on me. It's no big deal. We'll get a new pump. We'll put that on instead. So we're in luck. AutoZone had one. 52 bucks, whatever, lifetime warranty. Hopefully it'll be good. It is. They do sell nothing but Chinese junk, but you know, almost everything's made in China now anyway. So one kind of cool thing happened when I was there. The guy at the AutoZone recognized me and asked to take a picture with me, which is the first time that's happened. So that's kind of cool. Always kind of makes you smile when somebody recognizes you. It's kind of not an ordinary thing at all. It's really strange, sort of, but cool nonetheless. So there we go. There's our new pump. Looks like that's not a rubber. Usually they come with a little rubber plug right there that could actually stay on, but that was not one of those. So we want to lubricate the O-ring. We want to put some dielectric grease on there, which is silicone paste. That's rubber safe lubricant. So you just get some of that, smear it on. I like this. I like the dielectric grease because it's only $6, you know. I don't need to go out and buy a $25 jar of, you know, silicone paste that I'm just never going to use up. Although I do use it quite often. But, you know, it was just cheaper to grab a $6 tube. You can even find like the $1.50 little packets if you don't want to buy a whole lot. Okay. This thing can only go in one way. It won't really fit in upside down. So we're just going to work it in, work it on. We'll go in a little crisscross pattern just to make everyone happy. Though it's not going to matter for this. And I'm just sort of giving it even torque all the way around. You don't want to go super crazy on the torque on these. They're really small and you will break them off, these fasteners. So you know, don't go crazy on the torque on those ones. Okay, now all we got to do is kind of clean everything up and put it all back together. So I'm just going to douche everything down with brake clean. I've moved the drain pan out of the way because I don't want the brake clean getting in the drain pan. So I'm just going to rinse off the belt especially. It's okay, I know it's a solvent, but solvent will dry. Oil, you don't want to leave oil on your belts. That would be the big no-no, because oil is going to eat into the rubber slowly, you know, because it's not going to evaporate, but the solvent evaporates like right away. So just make sure all your pulleys are clean. We're going to actually get a blue paper towel. We want to go ahead and wipe them off as well. Just make sure there's no stuff on them, because if there's stuff on them, they're going to squeal. So give your pulleys a good wipe down. Make sure they're nice and clean. So yeah, when you're spraying, you want to get all of your pulleys directly. Just spray on them. Just rinse everything off. Make sure you're good to go. So I've got the belt like kind of roughly in place. You can see it kind of goes around here, and on the X3, for some reason they put this second pulley over here instead of up here. I don't know if that's just an X3 thing, or if that's like an XI thing, like if the E46 XI is like that. I actually don't know, because I haven't really worked on any of the XIs, but I think it's probably just like an X3 thing. But yeah, so that pulley's down there, so the belt runs in front of that, and then it runs back around the power steering pump, down around the crank pulley, and then this loose end is going to fit around this pulley right here. So we're just going to get that 16 mil ratchet, get that on, let's find it. Then we just kind of pull it this way. Let me get this light good for you guys. I'll pull it this way, reach down and fit that over. Now you got to make sure you're on all of your pulleys. You know, you just want to reach around, make sure that the belt is sitting in the grooves correctly, you know, make sure that you're good. And we are good. That's how you do that. So now that we've got some belt tension here, we want to go ahead and double check these. You always want to come in here, make sure they're tight and even. Again, the torque is kind of the same. These are like M6 fasteners with 10 mil heads. It's like 7 foot-pounds, but you can feel that, you know, you can, I don't know, it's just a feel that you kind of develop over time. You know, it's important to develop that feel. You kind of just gotta, it doesn't matter what kind of ratchet you use. I'm using this as a ratchet, but I can just tell, you know, like my hand is a certain amount away. I've got a certain amount of leverage here. No matter what tool this is, I can just kind of tell. And I can feel when the tension's like too much and I'm about to snap this bolt off. That's perfect. When in doubt, use a torque wrench. Just make sure that it's calibrated properly. Don't use a 3/8 torque wrench for something like this. Get yourself an inch-pound torque wrench, look up the conversion, and just, you know, torque that thing properly. An inch-pound torque wrench, when you're torquing a bolt like this, you're gonna end up being in the middle of the range of that torque wrench, and that's gonna be the most accurate way to go. So just go out and, you know, get an inexpensive inch-pound torque wrench. If you're worried about torques and things like that, that's what you want to buy. Okay, we've got a Hudson Products hose. Hopefully this one will be good to us. Just go ahead and take a look at that O-ring ahead of time. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. Hopefully it is good. Definitely want to put a little lubricant on those O-rings because you don't want to tear them. It's definitely possible to tear them. So there's another O-ring inside of here as well, as you see. Snap this guy in. You should hear that snap. Sometimes it is difficult to get these things in. Sometimes the little things can be a little hard to deal with. So in that case, it's okay to raise them up. It's just much easier to get in that way. And then you snap that thing down and pull backwards to test and make sure that you're snapped into those grooves. You'll be able to tell. And then push forward on this guy so that it's forward into the actual hose itself. And that is it. Quick, easy to assemble. Okay, let's also make sure that we put this hose back on. In fact, we should have probably made sure that we put this back on right after we took it off. And I think this one is the one I was having trouble actually getting the little lock inside the holes. So we got to make sure. Sometimes, you know, you just have these issues. So I'm going to use a screwdriver and make sure that that thing, that little clip goes into the grooves on either side. There. So make sure on either side, little clip goes into the grooves. Give it a tug, it won't come out. We should be good. So, like I said, I'm going to reuse this coolant, and I have these paint filters that I use whenever I do this. You know, it's brand new coolant. I'm not just going to throw it out. Just going to filter anything that might have landed in it. Going to remove this bleed cap. Little tiny bit of junk. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do another pressure test. Need to put that bleed screw back in. There should be more than enough fluid to do this test. Just need to top it off, make sure it's at the proper level and stuff, but let's do this. Uh-oh. Same freaking problem, man. Same problem on that hose. I wonder if it's like the expansion tank that's supposedly not good. Like, I don't know, did they make this expansion tank wrong, and is the diameter of that thing like slightly too small? Starting to wonder. I mean, that's like 2 hoses at this point, right? Oh man. Yes, I know I should buy OEM products, but that's just not what this whole build calls for, unfortunately. All right, guys, here's the story. I did try to take the O-ring out of the original hose, and I got that out with a pick. None of the O-rings that I have here in my O-ring kits are actually that proper size, and I don't want to go on an O-ring hunt because I just know how that's going to turn out. Not very well. So I went to AutoZone, different AutoZone, and I got another Rhine. This is what I started with. This is what this is supposedly. And I can tell you on the side here, it says CRP Industries, right? And on this one, it also says CRP Industries. I think I need to cut this open. This can come off like right here. So it was a Rhine originally that we used. It was in a package like this, I remember. So if this one also has a problem, then what I also bought from AutoZone was I bought another expansion tank. I'm thinking maybe this one is just made incorrectly and the size of this is slightly too small. I don't know. I mean, that's all I can figure, but this one also says CRP Industries, so it is in fact a Rhine. So we're gonna pop this one on. I think that O-ring in there looks a little fatter than the other one did. So yeah, it actually feels a lot fatter, you know, the opening feels smaller inside. So I have high hopes for this one, but I did buy another expansion tank just in case. It's a Dorman, just in case this one's bad, you know, because that was my last, you know, possible trip to the parts house tonight. So might as well be prepared, you know, we can always take things back. All right, here we go. Okay, we've got 15 pounds. And I think we actually do have a winner there. No noises, no pressure loss. That's pretty awesome. Let's look underneath, see if we've got any more leaks. All right, there are no leaks down below. We're good. I'm gonna call this done. I'm gonna put everything back together and this should be over. So I just took it for an extended test drive and it's all good now. I'm totally happy with it now. I really shouldn't have done that because it's technically not registered in my name yet. I do have it insured, but it's not registered. So, you know, just, I didn't do that, but I did it and I'm happy with it. So it turns out we're probably not going to sell this thing. It's going to go to my sister, my best friend's, you know, daughter who I've known for a long time, who thinks of me as the big brother she never had. So she's going to get this car. We'll have it painted and all that stuff. But yeah, turns out she's going to get this thing. Anyway, what have we learned here? We've learned that I am way too cheap and I should probably be buying better quality parts, OEM parts. But that's just what this build was and I was just sticking with it. It's all right. We got good parts now. We got a good, you know, top coolant hose and I'm happy. Everything's good. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.